Hey kids, Castrong Gaming here. No being around the bush. In this video, I'm going to share with you 10 tips that'll help you for beginners who's starting in Path of Exile 2. Number one is about gem sockets and how they've changed compared to PoE 1 and how the socketing system works on. It doesn't sound your armor anymore, even though it shows it right there, but I'll go over it in just a second. That your sockets, instead of being on your armor for your skills, are over here on a completely separate screen under the skill menu. Add your supports too, and then go up to 6 sockets altogether. Once you get to that point, I haven't gotten there yet, just 3 each. But sockets on your armor, on the other hand, are for resistances and things of that nature, like more damage for your weapons, and of course just resistances like fire, lightning, cold, things like that. And of course you can get more armor, energy shield, stuff like that by using these runes. Now, these runes, just be aware, okay? You can soccer them, but once they're in, they're permanent on that item. You cannot remove them. You cannot override them in any way for now. But the developers of the game have talked about changing this in the future, and hopefully they do, because it really needs to happen. All right, number 2. Want to press start and go to Microtransaction Shop, and we're going to be talking about stash tabs. Now you go over to the shop there. I'm on console, by the way. Go to stash tabs, and I'll recommend what you should be buying with your points. If you've got early access, whether it be the $30 packs, etc., whatever, if you got the $30 pack, the base, the minimum, you will have 300 points. Now, as you can see right here, the currency, premium currency, you'll see how much stashes cost. Now, I implore you, completely wait until every weekend. I think it's every weekend or every other weekend, stash tabs go on sale. They did PoE 1, they will in PoE 2. It's just a matter of time. Okay, and you're probably asking, what one should I get? Well, highly recommend you got to get premium tabs so you can sell stuff on the trade market when it comes out. But the number one here is currency, because you're going to get currency in the game. That'll be nice. Essences are kind of secondary. It's whatever, and a unique tab, delirium. Those are kind of, you can just use standard tabs for those if you really want to. They're kind of just, they're not necessary. And stash tabs are cheaper at base level. Now, quad tabs, people argue quad tabs are much better, but on console, they're much more difficult to navigate. They always have been. So that's why I just go with standard premium tabs. So these are my highly recommended gem stash tab now. All right, number 3, you cannot respec your ascendancy. From what the dev said, you cannot switch from one to another, but they are considering doing that in the future, and I hope they do to give us more variety. I mean, PoE 1, that was an option. After you respec, you could swap to another ascendancy, so I can't see why they wouldn't want to do this in the future. So, for example, I'm on Gemling Legionnaire. I can't swap to the Witch Hunter anytime I want. So it is a concrete decision right now. But let's hope that they, during early access, that maybe they'll implement that. It would help out tremendously for a lot of us who want to experiment. It brings me to my next point, which is number 4, is that we're talking about skills, support gems, and how they work on every character. Just like in PoE 1, you could use like as many support gems on all your different skills as you want. For example, like Mana Leech, you use that on like 3 or 4, however many skills you got running. There was no limit to that, but in this game, you can only use 1 support per skill, unless you are the Gemling Legionnaire, which is the mercenary ascendancy. You can have 2 copies of the same support gem in different skills. So this is the only alternative for that. Just be aware. Now, next is number 5. You do not have, or in PoE 1 we had an orb currency called Orbs of Regret, which help you respec your skill tree. Now, unfortunately, they're not in PoE 2 anymore. The only way you can respec your character is by gold, and you go to the hooded one, and when you progress in the story, you'll unlock him, and he'll be able to do it for you. And obviously, if you don't know who the hood one is, he is very prominent to the story. And you see brief fun passives, and then it'll show you how much it costs per skill. Now, be aware, this is critical. The higher levels you go, the more it costs. I mean, at the very beginning, like the first 10 levels, it costs like pretty much little to nothing of gold. But as you can see, I mean, yesterday it was only costing me about 290. Now it's 500 because my level is going up. I'm level 29 now. So know what you want to do beforehand. Don't screw around too much, otherwise you'll be spending a fortune on respecing if you don't like what build you got intact. So big FYI. All right, next up is number 6 is while you're exploring zones and there are huge maps, they will have optional bosses. I mean, it'll show on your map what optional bosses are in those areas, and you're going to want to complete them because they will drop passive skill points, resistances points, or yeah, resistances that are permanent. They're permanent upgrades to your character. So for the love of God, take your time and get it, because getting resistance in this game is a lot more difficult than it was in PoE 1. In the end game, when you get to the Atlas map, the developers did say that you will fight those optional bosses in the end game mapping, so you will have a second chance to getting those permanent upgrades if you didn't get them through the Axe campaign. So just a big FYI there. Number 7, talking about your flasks. Your belt and your charms, and what do they mean in this game? All right, on PoE 1, we only had we had 5 flasks that we can mix and match. We had like movement flasks, resistance flasks. There are critical damage ones. There was a lot of variety. Those aren't here. We have one dedicated life one and one dedicated mana flask. Okay, and the one slots here in the middle are charms that kind of substitute for those uh, flask slots that we used to have. Now, you see I only have 1 out of 3 slots open. And the only way to get more slots is through your belt. You'll see right up there, a charm slot. Now, apparently in cruel mode and endgame, you, I guess, find more belts will give you more slots. So, and they are handy, preventative stun and added effects to it. So there's ones for resistances and cool little things like that. So it's real nice change of pace. And a bonus tip here for the flask, for the love of God, look for ones and hope that when you're using your currency, that you hit the gain, charges per second. Get those. They are so nice because these maps in this game are huge. You're going to be trekking around a lot, and you're going to blow through your flasks like crazy. So please, these will charge over time, so you don't have to go back to town, go to the well. It'll save you a lot of time, trust me. I've been using these religiously. All right, number 8, the differences between more and increased as damage differences there, because there is a difference. Okay, you see, here's a good example on these support gems. This one says 50% more stun buildup, and then this other one says 50% increased critical hit chance. Now, more is multiplicative, while increase is additive. Now, I won't go in the nitty-gritty of details because I don't want to stumble over myself, but basically just remember that more is better overall, and it just multiplies your damage, your stun buildup, whatever it says more life, get it. Now, doesn't mean you shouldn't get anything that says increase, because those will help in adding to the multiplicative of damage modifier, whatever it is that you're trying to scale up. And most people will be going for damage, that it is something to look out for. So, all right, on to number 9. This game is quite challenging, especially in the second and third act. It gets up there. But what you're going to want to do if you want to farm levels, and this is highly recommended, if you want to over level before you go into a new zone, for the love of God, do it. And if you find an area that has a lot of packs of monsters, which most zones seem to anyways, but you find a nice little cluster, they're easy to fight monsters that you can just clear out. What you can do, you go to your waypoint, you go to that area, right? And once you've cleared it out, you can go back to the waypoint, click on the place you want to go. Now you'll see in the bottom of the screen it says Instance Manager. You hold that down, and then you could reset the instance. Otherwise, you'll have to wait the 8 to 15 minutes for it to change on its own to renew. So this is a big help. They had the same thing in PoE 1. They have it here too in PoE 2. So for the love of God, you want to farm those levels, get some more gear and stuff like that, this is the way to go. Only at number 10, while you're going through the campaign and into endgame, try, and it's really difficult to get gear that has where you can get resistance cap, which is 75% for all resistances, but it's really challenging without the crafting bench and without the same currency drops like it was in PoE 1. It is much more trickier to get capped out. In every act you go, it drops your total resistances down by 10%. So you have minus 10 on fire, cold, and lightning. So as you can see here, it shows you you're capped at 75% by default, and it cannot be higher than 90%. So this is what great tooltips. So please read the fine details here to know what you're doing. We're hoping that the devs will change this during the acts. I mean, we're still in early access, so a lot of this is more than subject to change about currency drops and perhaps getting better. Not having the crafting bench to put stuff on your gear like we had in PoE 1 is making all the difference here. Like getting drops in group play, the drops are of course a lot better, they're scaled higher. But I'm playing solo, and it's a little tricky to get some significant drops. I mean, I haven't found a unique yet. I mean, I'm not totally, complaining, but it would be nice to see at least one by now. But hey, RNG, and just, on a side. But it will happen eventually. That being said, I have one more bonus tip for all you guys out there, is that, for the love of God, follow a build guide. I know a lot of people are saying out there that you don't need to follow a guide for your build, just kind of experiment because the game's new and just figure things out. Well, that's the problem is that you're going to spend a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of currency respecing your character because it's going to suck. And because this game is challenging, it's difficult just in normal mode. Enemies hit harder, they take more damage, so you want to be able to pretty much mid-max your character stat, know what you're getting into, instead of, kind of going off the beaten path, and then you're going to just regret it, and you might have to restart your character or just farm a ton of gold to respec. And nobody wants to do that. You want to feel powerful. You want to blow through the game at a reasonable pace and not get burned out. I'm going with the Grenader Mercenary Gemling Legionnaire here. And the grenades are so strong, I can't imagine. I mean, out of all the skills I've been using on the Mercenary, this has been an absolute god tier, bread and butter of this class. I can't imagine it without it, and amplifying it with gas and oil grenades is even better. So please, please, please follow like Zizarin, Havoc, anybody that's been known for doing builds in the past, especially Zizarin, he's fantastic. Follow their Captain Lance, the experts out there, follow them instead of screwing around on your own, and know what you're getting into before you regret it and stop playing the game. So hopefully all these tips helped you guys out. If I missed anything important, I'm sorry. Please tell me in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you want to, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace out, Cub Scouts.